Well, this is kind of like my non-official response video, because I'm not really making this as a response. I'm not going to attach it to any other video. It's just my thought about what Kathy was talking about, what Laura Layla was talking about. The thing about, the art thing with the ballerina. And I thought about the fact that art is actually very powerful, because the fact that somebody actually even paints a picture of anything matters. It draws your attention to it. And I get to thinking, in everyday life, when we look at, like, if somebody makes a painting of something or takes a photograph of something, you see things in a photograph or in a painting in a way that you don't even pay attention to in real life. If I take a picture of a tree, you pay attention to it. Whereas in everyday life, you go to a park or something. I mean, some people do, but a lot of people just ignore the tree. They don't even pay attention. They don't notice the trees. They don't notice the birds. They don't notice anything. They're too busy with something else. Their attention is drawn to something else. They're on the phone, or they're talking to friends, or they're thinking about something else. But a few people do go to the park and they contemplate the nature of everything. Just everything that's there, including other people. But if you take a photograph of it, then everybody pays attention. We pay more attention to things in paintings and photographs than we do in real life. And I can draw your attention to the beauty of something. Even the beauty of someone who's older. Someone who may not be perfect, but suddenly you see perfection. You see perfection. That there is something beautiful even about getting older. It might be hard to think about it first, because we're so busy talking about how horrible it is to get old, how terrible it is. And, I listen to people talk about how they have to deal with their grandparents or whatever, or even people getting older like me, But then when you look at a painting, you see something beautiful and graceful, something you can't quite put your finger on. You can't point to it and say, that's the part that's beautiful, or this is the part that's beautiful. But it's the fact that someone actually captured a moment in either a painting or a photograph. It doesn't even have to be visual art. It could be a poem. It highlights things. You pay attention. You process things differently. And I learned something, to look at everyday life as if it were art. I look at everyday life like it's art. Today I'm going to get on a train to go to work, and there's going to be like hundreds of people on that train. And I see that as art. I'm always thinking about things and like looking at it and seeing it. And it's something I do when I travel too. I always love to look at people just in everyday life. To see everyday life in Tokyo, when I was in Tokyo. Everyday life in London. Everyday life in Madrid or in Paris. All the places I've been to. Just to see that all the time, how people get along, how people do things, how things are at the market. To look at life as if it were art. If you do that, you actually process things in your mind differently. And you start to see beauty of things that you didn't notice before. And I think that that's the thing. To me, that's the real thing of everything. To look at everything as beautiful. To see the beauty in things. To process everything in your real world as if you were looking at an art. Because it's like we have this two different minds. The mind that's for art and the mind that's for everyday life. But if you can combine that, make the mind that's for art and everyday life one single thing. Where you look at your whole life as art. Even everything about you. Look at your own body as art. Everything you do is art. Everything you do is a poem. It's something to think about. It's just, this is not really, I know I'm not addressing everything that was talked about in that video. But it's just, that's why it's a non-official response video. It's just my video, that's all. About how I think about things. How I look at things. Because I can see a lot of beauty. And one other thing I have to say is, actually, I don't think YouTube is boring. I actually think it's very interesting. I think that there are things that I'm not interested in. So I would probably find it boring if I looked at it. But there are things that I find very interesting. You know, it's just like philosophy, for example. I'm into philosophy. I love philosophy. I find it very interesting. The same thing with religion. I love religion. All kinds of religion. I like to look at different books and different kinds of religion, too. And I find it fascinating. And what other writers have to say, like Aldous Huxley and Carl Jung on religion. So what's boring and what's interesting on YouTube, it's a matter of what your interests are. I don't think that, you know, if I get into something, I'll find it interesting. That's just the way it is. And that's all I have to say. I know this is kind of rambling on, but that's all. By the way, hopefully you all like my watermelon. I think it's beautiful. For some reason, actually there's a reason why I paint watermelons, because Missy, she loves watermelon. I even have a channel called Missy Loves Watermelon. But that's all I have to say. And my stomach is starting to growl, so I got to get ready to eat breakfast and go to work.